Welcome back. If you have followed me this far, I suppose you are also prepared to face death. There is no case in the world that anyone has escaped death. Death is part of the human condition, and even the condition of all life on this planet. Once born, it is only a matter of how many days or years will pass until the inevitable moment of transition. You never know. It may be tomorrow, even this afternoon, or 100 years away. But you know the moment will come, whether you are prepared or not. An observation I have made numerous times in conversations and situations where death has been the subject is the uncertainty and fear that, so to say, lies between the lines and in the facial expressions of people. I always find this a bit strange. Since we all know we must pass the experience of our own death, why are practically everyone so unprepared? Why do they shun away from the subject instead of investigating it? Why fear the inevitable? Yes, I know there are many ways to die, some horribly cruel and painful. It is scary. It may look like a lottery every time you board a flight to somewhere pleasant, or just for obligatory business. It is, and some may lose that lottery. Once you leave the gate, it is head or tail. What you rarely consider in the same way is that every moment in life, every day, whatever you do, is like this. You may not see the next sunset or the next sunrise. Life just ends for one reason or another. Surprise, surprise, and you are unprepared. How then do you prepare for death? And when should you begin? At the age 20, 40, 80? There is no right time and no only method. I think that as soon as you become aware of death as a reality of life, something that may seem distant at a very young age, you should give it some thought. It is worth being conscious about the limit of your life, and you should not try to avoid facing it by seeking distraction, even though that is what most people do. There is no escape, so why seek escape? Death comes at the end of the line after a life, short or long. Some people instinctively react to a subconscious realization that life is limited, and they try to chase every imaginable material pleasure available as long as it lasts. All and everything for their individual enjoyment. Grab what you can while you can, no matter the consequences for other people or for your surroundings. This is quite a common attitude, driven by the forces of fear and uncertainty. My point is not to discuss any ethical or moral questions of the way people live their lives, but to focus on the underlying pressure intuitive knowledge of inevitable death creates, and how to release that pressure creatively is an approach to insight. This fear-driven pressure must be transformed into transcendence, a capacity to encompass more consciousness, reach into its depths, for it is where insight resides. This is also where fear of the inevitable evaporates. A person who seeks the material pleasures of life actually tries to fill a bucket where there is a big hole in the bottom. It is an insatiable life and will inevitably develop a feeling of growing discontent and emptiness. Hence the chase for more and more, while the facade will need continuous facelifts. Once the material attractions dominate, life is emptied of content, and the individual approach the final day unprepared and with fear. An empty shell is what rests. A fearless life is one where you walk hand in hand with death, where you greet yourself in the mirror every morning with a memento mori and thankful for the opportunities of the new day. Remember you will die. Maybe you should take into account that the reality of death and what it hides is meant to teach you to live, to face every day in this manner. The hidden aspect of life is there to make you tremble a little, so as to keep you alert and awake. Further, they are there as a call for you to seek behind the veils. Onwards from here, from this crucial insight, where do we go? How is it possible to learn something about death, even though to know anything at all about this mysterious, inevitable event? Speculation takes you nowhere. Faith in any religious sense is just accepting a view you have no clue about whether it is right or wrong. Note well that I have not mentioned reincarnation. There are so many theories and thoughts about death that you will never be able to make up your mind unless you move beyond. Faith and belief remain just faith and belief, explain nothing and leave you only a vague something to cling on to, but no true knowledge. Religion has become a balm to the fearful. Almost every religion has a description of what comes after. A heaven or a hell or a cycle to rebirth. In Roman Catholic terms, judgment of your soul follows a purgatory passage, where you are scrutinized for your sins, not unlike the ancient Egyptian belief, where the soul is weighed against a feather. What a ridiculous idea! It is man-made in order to keep the sheep in line. And incredibly, it works even in our modern time due to the general fear of death. Millions believe in this nonsense, awaiting the final doom. Who asks how there can be a final doom in a cosmos when nothing is final and there is no end? Religion is not logical, and it explains nothing. Whether Christian, Jewish, Islamic, Hindu or other, it comes with a set of dogma intended for uncritical acceptance as truth. Tibetan Buddhism takes you on a journey through what they call the Bardo, which is a series of after-death experiences. You may read about the Egyptian, Tibetan, Ethiopian Book of the Dead, or the Bible or the Quran, and still end up either skeptical or a firm believer, but it takes you nowhere. Faith takes the place where your inquiring mind should be at work, and plugs the doors that may lead to deeper understanding and an approach to insight. It is enforced faith and fear of death that certain practices have been suppressed by religious authorities, and why the practitioners have needed to move out of sight and become occult. In the two most recent podcasts, I spoke about the occult and about initiation. One of the most profound experiences that may be transmitted via occult practice, and above all, by initiation, is the experience of dying while alive. The passing into the misty fields of death and continuing through to a deep insight into the wholeness and vibrating life and death as two complementary phases of life. It is indeed an experience few dare to meet, for they are fearful or do not believe in it at all. The inner confidence I have talked about is missing, and the individual orientation is directed outward. Everything I have said in previous podcasts about death, you too might consider a theory of something I alone believe in. Certainly, my experience can never become an experience to you. Thus you may decide to consider all I have said so far and all I am going to say as pure fantasy. That is all up to you. I have both in my book and in a series of podcasts, and these short podcasts focused on consciousness as the only reality, the only real thing. I have said that cosmos is consciousness, absolutely unlimited in every conceivable and inconceivable sense, in time and space endless. This implies that there is no death. Even so, this implies that you and I and all there is are part of this endless, timeless reality, yet caught up in a corner where time and three-dimensional space limits our experience in both senses to a life and to living that life. This limitation comes with our externalization as fragments of consciousness and as physical bodies. It is a drop in energy and a limitation of its power that reduces us to human existence within such frames. Yet we jump into it willingly. It is an act of will behind our fragmentation. But, as you may understand, you cannot completely separate from that which is eternal and unlimited. Your human existence and every shred of it, visible and invisible, remains integrated in the whole, always. Consequently, there can be no death. It is only a matter of change, a transition into a different field of consciousness on an immensely long and winding road, through the human condition to conditions and fields beyond. What I may finally add is that when you do this in human life, it will influence the arenas waiting once you pass over.